Oh, hi everyone, and welcome to the Scratticus Academy. We are back with some Dunera, and I am so glad to be back. Before we dive in, let me ramble on for just a second. Please check out the links coming up in chat now. It includes our Discord. There is a channel solely for this game, so please go yell your theories over there. I'm seeing some more and more, which I'm loving. Also, a huge thank you to our wonderful sponsors. First of all, in the form of Hero Forge, whose Kickstarter has been going insane, which is amazing. Please go check them out now that you can get colored minis, as well as that you can pick yourself. And there's loads and loads of more editions and stuff as well. Also, please check out Mage Hand Press. I shout about it all the time because it's one of my favorite things. Dark Matter. It is now available in hardback. It's been 2 years in the making. It's a wonderful thing. It's D&D in space. You smush them together, and that's what you get. It's wonderful. Also, the Deck of Many. The Deck of Many Things, which we... oh dear, let's find a happier card to show you. There we go. Won't be drawing that one. Deck of Many, which... we will be drawing maybe today when I explain the hype train to our lovely players here. They also created Humblewood, which is an incredibly wholesome book, and I suggest you go check it out. It is here somewhere. Hildy is asleep on it, and I don't want to invoke the rage, so I'm not going to do that right now. Hype train. If you don't know what the hype train is, as some of our lovely players here don't, it takes three donations from 3 different people, a minimum of 100 bits to get the hype train going. If the hype train finishes on tier 1, everyone gets 2 advantages. If the hype train finishes on tier 2, I get 10 disadvantages to use against the players, which is a bit brutal, but you know. If it finishes at tier 3, everyone gets 2 auto successes. If it finishes at tier 4, every player gets to draw from the Deck of Many, and it will play massively towards the story. Well, I will say one of the Deck of Many things that was drawn at a few weeks ago actually not only has resulted then, but it has affected what's happening today. And if the hype train finishes at number 5, all that stuff happens, all the disadvantages, all the auto successes, all the Deck of Many. So yeah, let's see what happens. Otherwise, let's go round and say hi to everyone, and we will start, as we always do, with the lovely Jagon's Gold. Oh, hi.
Oh, hi, I'm Jay, or Jagon's Gold, and I will be playing Paula Packer, the librarian, dancer, kind of running a hospital, a quasi-hospital, in her dance studio, and I am so happy to be here, as always.
Awesome, thank you. And then we're going to hop down and say hi to the very lovely Tour School. Oh, hi.
Hey, how are you doing? I am playing Tolan Falk, sort of an old curmudgeon who just whipped his old flip phone against the wall because he forgot to charge it again, and it's obviously the phone's fault. That pretty much sums up Tolan. Yeah. We are, wow, yeah. Things in a quasi-hospital. Wow, yeah.
Well, thank you.
You know what it is? You know what it is? Concern.
It's the concern face. We're not concerned you're the last singer. It's fine. Then we're going to hop over and say hello to the very lovely Mel. Oh, hi.
Oh, hi. I'm Mal. I'm playing Reese Blackash. He's got a very big wolf, and if anyone who's followed me on other games knows, he's a very sad boy.
You only do sad boys, even by accident, Mal. Wonderful, thank you. And last but certainly not least, Sarah. Oh, hi.
What's up, everybody? Today I am coming to you from a hotel, so we're all gonna send some good vibes to the internet gods that my connection's as stable as possible. And today I am playing Florence Fetlock. She is a postal service worker for the city of Carnan, and she's a courier of sorts for those who are perhaps passed on to the next phase of life, and helps kind of put their spirits at rest. And that's all I'll say for now.
Wonderful, wonderful. We are going to jump straight back in, and Paula, you've found yourself dozing. You were awake for so long over the last night, and you don't necessarily feel like you slept a lot, maybe 3 to 4 hours at most, but you're propped up against a wall. You can definitely feel like a coat or something has been sort of thrown over you, but you feel a gentle hand sort of on your shoulder trying to rouse you, just sort of like, Miss Packer.
I'm up.
And you can see Elizabeth smiling, sort of looking down at you, sort of crouched down slightly, her red hair now sort of tied up, and a new, much heavier coat thrown over her. And you can see this magpie sort of hovering just around her shoulder, her very wounded shoulder, which you can just about see underneath this big coat. And you see the owner of the coat behind her, standing very much to attention, as Axel is there, his large mechanical arm sort of very prominent now that his jacket's off, this huge lynx by his side. I'm going now. I'm traveling back to Valadria today. We're not leaving right away, but I needed to wake you up. I've got a lot to prepare for. Valadria must know what has happened here, and she sort of looks around at all of the people. Some of them still asleep. Some of them seem to be up. You can see that Jin is dishing out some more food. You're guessing she popped out maybe during the early hours of the morning. And Elizabeth smiles and sort of takes that hand off of your shoulder as she does. So, please, anyone who is not awake yet, let them know that anyone who wishes to join us, we're leaving this evening, late this evening, but we're leaving and we're coming back. We're going to be sending help to Kanan. Anyone who wants to leave with us is very welcome. I know that there are already some ships on their way here, but I just thought you should know.
I mean, thanks for waking me up before you left, but I mean, are you sure you're in any state to travel, Elizabeth? I mean, you were pretty nastily injured yesterday.
And she sort of looks down at her shoulder. She's like, yes, but the comfort of my own bed, even if it is on an airship, would make me feel much better. And you can see behind her the stern look on Axel's face, but you see it is worry. He looks completely fine, but you can see he's almost hovering over her because he's worrying about her. All of him is very upright, very stern, very straight, but you can see both, even his mechanical hand, his fingers sort of rubbing against each other, almost like it's the only telltale sign that shows he's slightly nervous.
Oh, and good to see you again, Axel. Hope you found my studio easily. It's not really in the best state right now. It's had better days, but
Axel sort of leans over as Elizabeth he helps Elizabeth up and he holds out this huge mechanical hand to you, and he's like, I want to say thank you for keeping her safe.
Oh, of course. And I'll shake his hand awkwardly, uncomfortably, yeah, kind of like afraid to touch it, you know?
Yeah, the metal is very cold. If anything, you think, oh, it sort of sends a shiver down your spine at first, but you can see him fold over almost very warily, very carefully. It feels very gentle, and he sort of shakes it. He's like, no, thank you. Yes, we will be on our way. You are all very welcome. We're also sending other ships over here to Kanan. I just need to get her in a safe place on board.
Yeah, no, I totally understand. This is all happening really fast. I can't promise you that I'll be joining you this evening, but I'll definitely keep it in mind, and I'm sure I'll see you at some point. I've decided I'm definitely going sooner or later, but
And you see Elizabeth smile. Say, there's no pressure to go now. There's a lot to be discussed at the moment, but there are other airships coming in the next few days to bring aid to whatever has happened here. As she sort of, again, looks around at the families. But I would request that even if you do not come with us, I'd like to see you all on the airship before we leave, whether you're coming or not. Just, and she looks slightly, it's a mixture of tired and exhaustion, and you can see a hand go over her shoulder to almost not hold her upright, but a guiding hand from Axel. So, anyway, as she sort of starts to stumble over her words, she's like, I'm sending people to help organize what's happened, and I advise you do what's best for you.
I really appreciate everything that Viladris and that you guys are willing to do for Carnan. But I definitely hope to see you again, and you still have to give me that tour of the library.
That I do. And I will as soon as you arrive in Valadria. And she smiles. There's so much to show you. And your friends, as she sort of looks over at the rest.
Well, you should probably get going if you need to get everything packed up and ready to leave by this evening. Do you know how to get back to your airship from the studio?
And she smiles and slowly nods. You can see Axel, however, going, I always forget where we park. And he you can see him looking out the window. These airships are huge. You can see them sort of appearing behind some of the buildings, but there's quite a few of them. You can actually see another one coming in to arrive.
Well, yeah, I'm sure if you just follow those giant things sticking up over the skyline, you'll probably get to them pretty easily.
And Elizabeth nods and sort of pats sort of Axel's arm for him to move away from them to start going. And she's like, I will see you later, hopefully, Miss Packer. And she smiles.
As they leave, Paula will definitely turn around towards the rest of the group to see if anyone was listening.
Would anyone be awake? Tolan, you slept a lot. Would you be awake?
Tolan would be awake. I mean, he's not a good sleeper as it is, and being in a strange place and with all the things on his mind, he'd be awake.
I think Reese would be awake too, honestly.
No, we have to hear.
Mm-hmm. And how about Florence? Would Florence have rested at all, or?
I think she was just walking back from her kind of midnight excursion, and she's probably trying to fall asleep again and leaned up against a wall nearby, but totally listening and totally not actually asleep.
Paula, you can probably turn around and see all of them watching you at some point.
So, who's up for a trip to Valadris tonight?
The only clue that I have is he sort of holds up his drawing that he's still probably been fussing over, of this arch that he saw with the crossed swords and the mockingbird, yes, right? Magpie, sorry. And the magpie. And sort of just keeps looking at it. He goes, I need to check on Averick as soon as I'm able. And if all roads lead to Valadris, then that's where I will head. But there's something extraordinary has happened, and we need to try to figure out how to fix it, or what it means if it's unfixable, how to move forward.
Totally. But if you're worried about Averick, there was plenty of room on those airships if you wanted to bring him along.
Oh, I'm sure that I could bring him. I'm saying I don't know. I've not seen him since I left him back in the scar before I came in the tree. I don't know where he is or how he might have been affected. And I was unconscious for quite a while.
I didn't even think of that. Yeah, that's definitely a valid reason to be concerned. Are you feeling any better after your nap?
I know it's probably been an hour or so. He was dizzy and wasn't able to stand on his own before. He's probably going to give it another try, even if he needs to spin some out of one of his pools to get the energy to do so. He does still have some might in his might pool left.
I'd say it's probably about 3-4 hours since you've done it. Would Tolan have eaten in that time if someone thrust food at him, or would he have left it?
Well, I know we had tea. I know tea was made. In fact, I think Tolan went to make tea.
Yeah, Tolan made the tea.
Tolan went to go to make tea when he, after Reese. So I think that, and Lord knows he probably has a biscuit or two of Aggie's in his giant coat pockets. So tea and biscuits, he's ready to go.
You probably would be.
That's a long rest, right?
It probably would be okay then, as it's still morning. It's not like it's been lunchtime and you've not eaten anything.
Well, if you need help, like someone accompanying you just in case you get dizzy again. I would offer my help, but I honestly can't because I have a lot of people here in the dance studio right now, and I need to make sure that they have a safe place to go. But you should probably find someone that can help you stand upright if you were planning on heading back to Bruin Bindings.
Tolan looks to Reese. Help would appreciate it. I don't know what. You have to remember, I don't even know what the situation is in the streets of Conan right now. All I've seen since the explosion is he kind of shakes and looks up at the ceiling, which this ceiling.
Yeah, I'll go with you. I'd like to get another look around anyway. See what we're leaving. If there's anything else we can do before we go, if that's the plan.
Interested to see how the expenditure of magic that we witnessed might have affected the city, and particularly the Ska.
And I think at this point, Florence is she's scooted her way over, and she leans in and very quietly and somberly says, I don't know how it affected the Scar, but it hurt a lot of people. Things seem as under control around the story tree as they could be, but yeah, a lot of people were hurt.
I'm hoping the lack of magic in the Ska might have helped it in some way, but I'm worried for Averick. I'm worried for what we saw. I'm worried for his unique situation as well.
Well, we wouldn't make you leave without checking in, so we can go do that.
This would be appreciated. So then I think as soon as he's able and can gather his things and wallet, keys, hat, he would want to try to head out.
Reese, are you going with Tolan?
Yep. I think before they leave, though, he'd go check and see if Tuva needs anything.
You can see Tuva is suspiciously putting food into her rucksack and it's not coming back out again. You're guessing there's been a conversation because Jin's looking at Tuva as they make eye contact, and she's just shaking her head at her, and Tuva sort of slowly puts the backpack like flap down and ties it, and then sits sort of so suspiciously, like she's not subtle. Like you would have thought she would have stolen something with the look on her face, but she just
more
sort
subtle
of
if she stole something.
Yeah, she sort of like looks over to you if you're looking directly at her, smiles, and just pats the top of the bag.
Yeah, I mean, he'd go over, and Tolan and I are heading out. Do you need anything?
Oh, would you want me to come too?
I don't know that your mom would like that.
And you look over and Jin is still just shaking her head. She's like,
I'm in a little bit of trouble. Apparently,
That's the
you're
best
not
way to
allowed
be.
to just pick up a dragon.
I mean, what else are you going to do with it?
Thank you.
and she sort of like looks over at her mum, and again there's like a really harsh like shaking of the head. But she looks, she's like,
I'll find you later.
Okay.
and she sort of does a really over the top wink, like it's so not subtle. And you can see Jin looking at you, looking at Tuva before turning back to dishing out more of this food.
I mean, Reese would probably just shrug at Jin like, kids.
Yeah. And she just, there's just a look of, you could see a mixture of worry and stress, but she doesn't argue verbally or anything.
Yeah, and then when that's done, he'll stand and, pat his leg for Astrid and join Tolan, who's probably by the door.
Astrid sort of raises up, and you can see quite a few people sort of either move out of the way if they're awake, or you can also hear the creak of the floorboards on this dance studio as this huge wolf sort of stands up, and then almost like a puppy sort of stretches and then starts to pad very heavy paws over to you as you and Tolan head out into the street. And where are you going? Where are you leading everyone, Tolan?
I'm heading back to the lab, as that's the last place I saw Averick, and I think very much he is trying to keep his eyes out for changes, things that he witnessed when the scar was first formed. Just, again, things that occurred after huge expenditures of magic take place. And also just this is his first look at Karnan since the season tree exploded. I'm sure there's some, depending on what he spots along their way, sorrow.
You effectively lead Reese down these cobbled these streets that you know so well, and you walk past the season tree, but beneath your feet is just splinters and splinters of wood from, I guess, the door is what, it's sort of a hazy memory for you.
Mm-hmm.
But when you do walk into this or walk past the square, there's a lot of people there, you can see what looks almost like a stump where the tree was. It looks like a growth has come out of it, but it's just shattered and split. The tree is not there anymore. There are bits of wood sort of sprinkled everywhere, and you can guess there were probably more, but there seems to be a lot of people here carrying white sheets, moving people. There doesn't seem to be many left. You see one or two. Sort of, there's a lot of sadness here. You can almost feel it in the air. There is no laughing and chatting like there normally is in the Carnon Square. It is all very morbid as you walk past.
So, Tolan would then be looking for Severed Anakwe. He'd be looking to see Anakwe whose person has died, as he knows that they usually are drawn to the season tree, and now that it's gone, it's where they are going, what they're doing. Are they still finding their way here? Is there a group of them just not knowing where to go now? Are they just wandering around? Are they going somewhere else? He wants to see, knowing that it's not many, most disappear, but some invariably can't find their way. So he'd be looking like for, as he saw the monkey that one time, for others.
Can you roll an intellect check for me, please, just to see?
Yes, and I am going to use an advantage because I'm going to use an advantage. Because this is important to him. I don't think I've got anything else, so let's just do it. A 4, and come on, something good. 14.
Okay, so it's more, first of all, it's like you can feel it around you and you hear a song, a very low song, the one that you normally hear, the one that you have sung many a time. And you see so many different colored, almost like, some of them don't even look too much like animals anymore, that they look like they've become almost like wisps, like when smoke sort of disperses up into the air. There's one or two you can see wandering. They don't look too confused, if anything. You can see one that looks to be maybe like a deer or a stag, and it's making leaps and bounds, but upwards in the air where the tree used to be, before again it hits a point and it's like it just goes, and it like turns into like a smoke. You can see one very small Anakwe, which you can see it hovering around a group of people, and you can see one of the people standing is holding what looks to be maybe a loved one or something that is under a white sheet and walking away. But you can see this tiny little squirrel sort of looking very confused, hopping around the entire group as if it's trying to climb up towards whoever this person is holding. But it's like the energy is slowly leaving them. Like they don't seem to be able to jump through the air anymore. They're trying to jump towards this person, but it's like they fall. And the strangest thing is that they look as if they're becoming more and more translucent.
Would Tolan, upon seeing the ones that seem to still be climbing up into the canopy of where the season tree was, recognize that as how the lost ones sort of dissipated before, sort of turned back into energy at the highest foliage? Or is this different from when they would be absorbed by the tree?
It seems very similar. It seems like they're returning back to the air more than anything. And you can still hear the song very intense. As much as the season tree is gone, you can feel like it's like an energy that comes from it. And you can see this squirrel sort of looking towards it, looking back at this group of people, and then looking towards it, almost like it's trying to make a decision.
Tolan will look at it and sort of send his song out to it just to sort of grab its attention.
As you do, you see it perk up as if it sort of sits upright, and it turns around and you can see this reddish glow, very faint now, like the actual glow is dull. And it turns and looks to you and sort of takes a few bounds forward, stops, takes a few bounds forward.
And I sort of point back to even where the tree was, not wanting to intrude on this family who's obviously in mourning, knowing his presence might cause more grief, but sort of point this squirrel on its way. Shoni Aure.
Can you roll me another intellect check for me, please, just to decide something?
With my new knowledge of being a singer, could I have an asset?
Absolutely.
Okay. I'm going to do that, and I am going to spend a little effort on this because Tolan feels that he has not contributed to this recovery of this, after what has happened. And so I'll use another advantage as well. Oh. Might as well see what it is.
Okay. It sort of bounds over to you for a moment, and it's strange. It's like you can feel it tug at your trousers, like leg. But as you start to sing, it sort of looks up at you for a moment, and it doesn't bound towards the tree, but you, for a moment, when the words are sung, you feel a strange sensation of calm, and almost like it was sand being blown away. You see this squirrel sort of, this red mist sort of disappear, gather itself and wisp up into the air towards where the tree once was.
I think when the squirrel comes over, Tolan sort of squats down, and he's, even as this is disappearing, he sort of finishes the last verse. Re fa tre ni tre nu la. Sort of lets it go up into the air.
Maurice, you can see this. You didn't see the Inakwe at first, but once Tolan crouches down and starts to sing, you can see it, and you can see Astrid almost takes a very proud sit.
Where are they going, Tolan?
The tree may be gone, but the well of magic, or the cycle of magic, is unbroken. They perhaps aren't being pulled into the tree, but They are returning and starting the cycle anew.
That raises an interesting question out of character for me, because at one point I was told that Reese could tell that the magic felt different in Karnan, having been from Red Wolf Island. So how does it feel now?
The air right now to you feels thicker than it was. It feels very light in comparison to Red Wolf Island. It's almost like more of a... So if you're in a room full of smoke and it feels very difficult trying to grab the oxygen, that's what Red Wolf Island feels like, because the magic is very thick in the air. Whereas here, you can feel it, but you can't feel it like in the air when you breathe. And it feels a lot thinner, and it feels like a very different lightness to it.
I don't think Reese has a good way to answer what Tolan says after he asks that question, so he just nods.
Something has changed, but something has also remained the same. He looks Reese in the eyes, both of them being older. I know that look. Something changed in your life as well. Something that can never be completely healed. A scar like those you wear on your face. It's our job to carry on for those who follow.
Every day.
Every day. And he just turns and starts heading towards the lab.
Reese follows.
Florence and Paula, what are you two doing as you've been, you watch Tolan and Reese go, you see a couple of families get up, they sort of give you a smile and a nod, in particular to you, Paula, but as they disappear, some of them usher their children out. Some come up to you and say thank you. You can, like, some of them are like grabbing your arm and like saying thank you. And Florence, you can see this happening as well, but they do slowly all drift out. One or two families you can see stay a bit longer. It looks to be the children just aren't awake yet. But what would you two do in here?
At some point between all the families coming to thank Paula, she definitely find Florence and Florence, I don't know if you heard earlier this morning, but the Valadrians are leaving today.
I must admit, I did overhear some of that. And I think as they're talking, Florence is like picking up pieces of trash and like kind of like helping, like she's trying to find something to do in some way to help. Yeah, I overheard. Do you think you're gonna go? It sounded like you were gonna go.
I'm pretty sure I'm gonna go. I mean, not only is this a once in a lifetime opportunity, but also I think we could actually do some good and help the Valadrians get to the bottom of this.
Do Do you really think they'll be able to help? Based on what you know, do you think they'll know anything more or be able to help you put together any more of these disparate pieces?
I honestly don't know. I know that the Valadrians are really advanced and they have a wealth of knowledge that we're only scraping the surface on in Karnan. But their motivations and how much they can really help, at some point you just have to trust someone. And I know that's hard nowadays, but I had this list and it was all the people that I don't trust, and now I'm going to try to start making a list of people that maybe I could trust, or I don't know. I really want to take a new approach because so far being distrustful has gotten me nowhere.
It sounds like you have a lot of hope, just a lot of hope in your heart and a lot of expectations. I guess that's something I think I've been a little bit short in supply on for a while now. Today's been something else, and I thought I was never going to leave Karnan, but I think I want to go with y'all.
Yeah, no, I hear you, Florence. I really do. Maybe we all just need to get out of this place for a little while and clear our minds from all this chaos. Unfortunately, I don't think everyone in Karnan will really have the same opportunity to take a vacation from this city. But this opportunity was literally handed to us. For me, it was handed to me by you. So if we didn't take advantage of it, that would be the real shame.
Yeah, y'all have quite the track record. It sounds like just from I caught a little bit of what Liz said to y'all at the airship, or rather what Liz said to the others while you were coming. I really do think I wasn't given those letters for no reason. And I think I'm ready to be somewhere else that's not Karnan. Not to run away from something, but to run towards something. Does that make sense?
Yeah. No, it does make sense. Because I feel the same way. So
what do we have left here to do?
Well, at some point those kids are going to wake up and then they're going to skedaddle. I think we need to talk to Tuva. You see Tuva and
oh, that's right.
And
she's the one with the DRAGON.
Yeah. And you see, a little bit of backstory here. She actually happened to acquire the she happened to acquire said creature.
The creature, yes.
Yes, the creature. In the big event that the Valadrians are now investigating. And I'd argue that Tuva was one of the key witnesses, and especially since she was held captive by the church for some time as well. So I don't know why they didn't reach out to her in the first place, but I feel like she might be an asset to this investigation.
And So, wow, y'all really were there for whatever happened. I'm glad you made it back out to the other side. And whew, from what I know of Tuva, that little one has enough moxie to fight off 100 people holding her captive.
Yep, she's just a little bundle of energy,
How quiet are you lot being?
chaos. Yeah, probably normal volume, normal speaking volume.
You both turn then as you're having this conversation. You sort of hear as you sort of look down, and Tuva is there with the backpack wearing on front. And you can see Brenna, her Inarque curled around her shoulders.
You talking about me?
Yes, but more importantly, I'd like to talk to your mother about taking you on a little field trip.
Okay. What kind of... This isn't a school thing, is it?
Well, I think that there will be a lot of educational elements to this trip, as we're going to a giant library, among other places.
She gives you that look of, huh? Like, sort of...
You want to go to a library?
I'm a librarian, Tuva. This is...
No, I know, but that's what I'm saying. You're always in a library. Don't you want to go somewhere else?
Well, it is somewhere else. It's a library that I haven't been to before.
You know, they still keep books in them, right?
And you say that like that's a bad thing.
No, I'm just wondering if you think libraries are different in different places.
Well, of course they are. I mean, they'll have a different collection of books that reflect the knowledge and cultures of the places that they're from. And
Do I have to go into the library?
well, I'm thinking that maybe we can integrate the educational elements to the into this little field trip, but really we'll need to take you I think I need to speak to your mother first before I start putting any ideas in your head, because I know how you get, Tuva.
What's that supposed to mean?
And she sort of like, you can see her try to stand up a little bit taller. She's like,
I mean, I'm my own person. I can go if I want.
Hey, Florence, could you just take care of the child for a second? I need to go speak to her
Child?
mother.
and like you get like jelly because she sort of is. She's just like Florence. She's like,
I will fight her.
like is this?
And Florence like leans in and whispers over to Tuva, I think you could win too, but let's why don't we go in the corner and strategize and let Paula go have her own conversation.
And Tuva is just like glaring over at Paula. She's barely even looking at you. She's like,
Fine.
Yeah.
I've got the advantage.
and she pats the rucksack and walks over towards the corner and sits herself down.
And Paula will make her way over to Jin.
Jin, you can see, is packing up her stuff. She's pulls away. You see Matthias is stood there with like his arms out, like given things to carry.
Hi, Jin. Thanks for helping out today and last night.
She sort of pushes this like very dead straight black hair back out of the way, and you can see how tired she is. She's like, no, thank you for housing so many people. There's still a lot to do.
I mean, hopefully not too much to do, because I really can't be sticking around that much longer, if I'm being honest.
That's fine. It's mainly medical anyway.
On that topic of having things to do, I know that you and Tuva have an interesting relationship in which she'll go missing for hours or days on end, and then you'll freak out, and then you'll reconnect, and you'll both be a little bit grumpy, and like I've witnessed the dynamic. I get it.
You see Jin looking at you like that. You get a very similar reactions from Jin as you get from Tuva.
But I have an opportunity for you. An opportunity for you to take some time to relax, focus on your business, focus on yourself, maybe go to a spa or unwind for a little while.
Do I look like I need a spa? She gives you a look. She doesn't look angry. If anything, she looks mildly amused. But she does give you a look.
No, it's not. It's about like doing some like internal cleansing. You can just relax, get rid of all the bad juju. Meanwhile, I propose that I can take your daughter on an educational field trip as the librarian at the academy. This will be a once in a lifetime opportunity to make up for all the missed time that Tuva has neglected to attend sentences.
And she pauses. You want to take my daughter on an airship to Valadria is what you want to do. You want to be in charge of my daughter in a foreign country to show her an educational experience.
Well, you see, Valadris has the largest library in the world, as far as I know. And
no, I understand that. I'm saying you're volunteering to deal with Tuva.
Paula, she bites her knuckle. Realizing exactly what she's signing up for. I have a feeling I won't be alone on this journey. I'll have a little bit of support, but yes, that's the plan.
And she looks at you and smiles a little bit. I have to stay in Karnan because I'm one of the few doctors here. And she sort of looks around at some of the last people leaving. If you take Tuva, you're taking the dragon too.
No, I don't think that's necessary. I mean, I think that
it's necessary. I'm not having that thing in my house whilst I'm not in.
If we take the dragon, you keep the Sylvis.
I assumed that was the case. I need something to... And you look over at this Sylvis that is currently outside eating one of the window boxes on the front of your dance studio, sort of just looking very subtly in, and it's got like this pack that's been made to put over it, which looks to be maybe full of some of the bowls and medical supplies.
Well, that was oddly easier than I thought it would be.
And she looks at you like, you have no idea. I would like regular updates.
Absolutely. Can do, will do. And you know what? Since we're all just being like transparent and honest here, the truth is that it really wasn't about a field trip in the first place. Funny story, actually, this is about the investigation into the bombing at the church. And your daughter just happens to be a key witness. So, but I will
smiling and nodding at you at every single word you say. Just don't mention my name, okay?
Is this about that weird thing that you and my mom?
Yes.
Yeah, I I will avoid that topic with much pleasure.
It's good to know. If you need anything in particular for Tuva, though she's very capable, strangely, so she sort of looks over at her daughter. When are you planning to go? I need to pack some things for her.
There is a good chance that we'll be leaving this evening, as the Valadrians kind of are rushing out of here in light of recent events, so they can send for help. Which, hopefully, if they have doctors, you'll have some backup.
She sort of looks around and sort of nods, just like, that would be good. And Jin looks at you for a moment, is like, thank you. And genuinely, from the bottom of my heart, good luck.
I really appreciate that. And if you happen to see Amma, please tell her where I'm at.
And she gives you a bit of a sad smile, but nods. I'm going to talk to my daughter. And she sort of walks over. And Florence, whilst you're sat there, Jin walks over and smiles at you. It's like, I just need to have a word with them. Tuva, please. And she sort of takes Tuva's hand and leads her away. Paula and Florence, the last few people leave. Matthias gives you sort of a gesture that he'll message you, Paula, as his hands are absolutely full of these boxes as Jin directs him out the door, sort of ordering him in a certain way. You can see him loading up this Silvus as it's, and you can see it sort of like chewing on the collar of his jumper. The hype train has started. Here we go. We'll see what happens there. So you can see Matthias with Jin and Tuva sort of walk off in the direction of Jin's oodles, and you are alone now in this dance studio with Florence. And there's a lot of things left behind, like blankets and stuff, but that's about it. There's no real mess, but it is there.
Well, I don't think any of this is going to get cleaned up before we leave.
I don't mind leaving it, but I don't know if I'm getting to sleep anytime soon either. I don't mind staying to help, but
no. I think this is a mess for after everything is dealt with. I mean, I still have things I need to do before we leave. I have to call Niles back at the cabaret and tell him that I won't be attending my next shift or any shifts in the short-term future. And the academy, oh my god. I'm gonna have to quit my job probably, or find a temporary replacement back at the university because
Do you really think this is gonna take that long? I haven't really thought this far ahead, but I was planning on maybe just calling in sick.
Honestly, I don't really know.
I mean, I guess you seem like a planner, so don't let me get in the way of that.
I mean, I can plan, but my version of planning tends to unfurl into utter chaos. And rarely do my plans ever go as I expect them to.
That's more my experience. I kind of try to just figure it out as I go along. But you're right. I probably shouldn't just call in sick to work for the next however many days.
Maybe they have like a leave of absence option. I don't know what like your benefits package is, but you see the academy actually has like a pretty good benefits package, and I might actually qualify for a leave of absence. I have a pretty good relationship with the headmaster, so I got the in.
I guess I'm fairly new, but I guess I also work for the city of Karnan, so I might have a leave. I honestly never read any of the paperwork, and I don't plan on starting today either.
I mean, who really reads that paperwork anyway? Like,
Exactly.
am I being honest? They make it intentionally very long-winded and use a lot of big fancy words just to discourage people from reading it, so they don't know exactly what they're signing.
And this is how we stick it to them. We just don't read those things.
Yeah.
So
that will almost certainly work out in our favor.
I like the way you think, but no, you're right. I should definitely talk to my boss and I guess pack. I haven't packed to go anywhere in a really long time.
Well, I packed to move out of my mom's house into a crummy motel about 5 days ago. So, but you know, I'm happy to pack all that back up again and get out of the crummy motel because, well, it's pretty crummy.
Yeah. Well, I guess we should split up and do what we need to do. What time did Liz say to show up at the airship?
She had a kind of nonchalant, like very like mystical vibe about her when she was like this evening with her Valadrian accent that I cannot by any means reproduce. But so she was a little vague.
So like by nightfall or sundown or at dusk or whatever thing she said.
I'm gonna go with sunset.
That sounds romantic in a kind of nice way.
Like that's something Valadrians would do, right? They would leave at sunset just so that way as they're taking off they get that nice view.
It's all about the aesthetics. I think you're really gonna like Valadris. I haven't spent much time there, but I've passed through a couple times, and truly, it is something to behold. I don't think my words could quite do it justice.
Well, we'll be there soon enough, and I'll be able to see it with my own eyes. I'm
all right.
Nervous and excited.
Nervous and excited it is. All right, I'll see you at sunset.
See you at sunset, Florence.
Paula.
And you both waltz away.
Yeah, Paula will literally waltz away with.
And Florence just thinks she's gonna like Valadris.
And back with Tolan and Reese. Tolan, you've been walking in the direction you've walked for so many years, back towards the scar. But normally where you can see the boundary where that sort of, I guess the darkness sort of hits it, you stop confused. It doesn't look right. You even take a second to think, am I even in the right place? Did the knock to the head make me forget where it was? Because you look down this alleyway, effectively, and it is blooming with flowers and buds. You can see these almost like large fruits that have blossomed. If anything, it looks more floral than anywhere you have been in Karnan. These huge fruits have sort of grown from it, almost like orange size, and they are glowing almost like the lights, like the buds you saw. And there's these fireflies sort of darting in and out of these bushes of pink and red and blue and green, and these very huge leaves as it grows from all the sides of the walls, along the path, across the roofs. You can see it would be as if you left something to overgrow for years and years. And the almost ashy, sort of black, like plants that were left in its place are gone. Maybe they're buried underneath all of this flora, but you can't see them.
He stops for a second and like puts his and I'm sorry, I've lost my way. And stops Reese. And he sort of turns and almost even turns his head and closes his eyes. Because I think there's a part of him that knows he's not lost.
Are you all right?
I'm just praying that I'm not dreaming. He turns and looks back around, and I think as he looks into the scar, the Gardenia district. Sort of a shaky hand comes up to his mouth.
Reese puts a hand on his shoulder.
It's back. What I destroyed. It's back. And then he doesn't run, but he starts to walk very quickly towards the lab and towards where he left Averick, both excited to share this, but then also concerned of what this might mean for Averick, and goes rushing down the streets. He tries to see if he spots some of the plants that he had searched for so many years that were considered extinct, that only existed in the Gardenia district. Is he able to see any of them?
You run down this alleyway. Reese, I'm assuming you're following? You can see Astra just sort of like snuffling her nose along the floor, sort of keeping up. And Tolan, you're looking beneath your feet, and it's almost a woven mass of these flowers and these vines as they're growing up on every single thing, sort of heading their way almost to the waterways. And you see so many flowers you've not seen in a long time. Ones that were thought to have been completely destroyed by this light. And this looks like a corridor of flowers and vines, and it seeps everywhere. It's like it's been left to grow for, if not 100 years. You can see it curving its way around the windows, around the doors, almost framing everything, sort of weaving its way up onto the roofs. And you can hear some voices here and there who have obviously stopped to have a look, and they're looking at it as well. You can hear the gasps almost of delight and confusion, and you can hear that buzz of life living now within these flowers. You can see these huge ones, almost star-like shapes, these bright purple with a yellow sort of center. You can see the ones, some of the buildings, see these vines running off the top of the roofs, and these long blue, almost tendril-like flowers that stretch all the way from the roof down to the ground, almost like a curtain. And some of it you even have to push aside to get through towards the lab.
He's excitedly, do you see that? That's an ever-blooming night thistle. They were thought gone. The sun drew buttercup. There, the purple stars. That's an astral nova. There. Did you smell that? It's gardenias. That was always how it got its name. And he rushes and pushes this curtain aside and throws open the door. Averick?
As you push this curtain aside, it's almost like a perfume hits you, almost like it's slightly overpowering. It's not a sweet smell. It's kind of the smell like that's in when it rains in the forest and the ground is damp the day after. It's that sort of smell. You can smell a sweetness to it, but it's not overpowering as you sort of move this aside and you see your lab and you push the door open. You step in and it is dark, but it's dark for a different reason. It's dark because the windows are covered in flowers. And it's almost like some of the light that is coming in is casting these very sort of blue and pinkish, like almost like a stained glass window, onto this very dusty floor. And you notice wherever there's a gap, wherever there's a hole, the flowers are coming in to the lab. They're sort of working their way through. It is completely empty. There is no one in here. However, you do see a note scribbled on the table. Very, very big pen, almost like worried that you would miss it. It just says, "Gone to Aggie's." And you can see all of these flowers creeping in. You can see one of them is sort of, this small vine of pink flowers has wrapped itself around the handle of the teapot that you were drinking from with Averick only the day before. And it seems to have all stopped and settled now. But it's all there. And you almost lose the musty smell, the dust. You can't smell it. These flowers are too vibrant. And then you realize the only light that's really making everything visible are some of the berries and some of the buds that are doing that soft glow like they do down the alleyways. And it gives a dull light into the room. And Reese, you can arrive just behind Tolan as you see all this.
Tolan is slowly, sort of arms outstretched, turning in a circle in the center of the room of this lab. It would be very different attitude than the Tolan you've known for the last week. There is a huge smile on his face. He's not sobbing as much as just kind of leaking tears out of his eyes, coming down his cheeks. I guess I was wrong. Some things can be fixed and be put back in place like they were before.
Reese very quietly is just like, "I'm glad for you," because he doesn't know what to say.
Of course, not everything can be, but sometimes we have to take what we can get. even if it's just a piece of what once was, and the hope that it brought at the time. It was so important. When the world is new and you think anything is possible. Averick's gone to Aggie's. We should check on her as well. Sorry. There's still much that I have to pay penance for and to atone for. But somehow when the door was broken, or when the Guardians tried to defend it, all that was pent up behind that scar I had created was able to break through. It's almost like the blight in reverse. We need to go.
And Reese, behind you, you felt the door close as Astrid walked in. And you feel sort of come over you something that hasn't really happened for a very long time. Very long time. Maybe even, well, not to this extent, since the day you found Astrid. As you stand in this room, almost overwhelmingly so, with these flowers. And it's almost like the click of the door closing seems 10 times louder than it should, as if it echoes to you. And you see Astrid sort of perk up her ears and look at you. And there's a look in her eyes for a moment that feels familiar. Again, something that's she's not done for a while.
Tolan, how far is Aggie's from here?
10 blocks. Bit further. It was outside the scar. My lab was the center. Once we get past what the old boundary of the scar was, it's only 3 or 4 more blocks beyond that.
Well, because I've been talking behind the scenes, I'd like to try something, and I'll explain it for chat and everyone to know. Obviously, Alice, you can twist it as I talk if you need to, but I would like to take out the knife that was glowing, and Reese walks towards the door and puts the knife in where the keyhole would be, and he's going to try and turn it and see if he can open the door and have Aggie's be on the other side.
You fix the knife in the door. And you see for a moment a flash of color cross Astrid's eyes. You haven't seen this in years. And Tolan, you watch as this knife that shouldn't fit in a keyhole at all, but it turns and it clicks. And Reese, can you roll me an intellect, please?
I sir can, and I'm gonna spend an advantage. And I'm gonna spend an edge as well.
Nice.
18.
You, Tolan, as you're standing there, you're watching Reese, and because of your angle, you look at Astrid, and it's almost like you see all of her fur sort of go up on the back of her spine and then relax again. And it's like a light goes past the windows. Like it goes from day to night very, very quickly. You hear a click, and then your door handle isn't the one that Reese is holding onto. And Reese, you push down on this door handle and open this door, and you are standing in Aggie's courtyard garden. Same flowers pouring over the top of the side of these old walls. You hear the kettle boiling. You can hear Averick laughing. You see that small sort of stand with the iron tables and chairs sort of covered in wisteria overhead. You see these two cats pressed up against the kitchen window. And you see the back of Aggie's head. Reese, you feel almost like your breath leaves you for a moment. This doesn't usually work this often, if at all. But you are both stood as if you've just walked in the back door of Aggie's garden. And that is where we'll take our break for a moment, and we will be back.
I want to do a quick thing when we get back.
Yes, absolutely. So everyone get up, stretch, have a drink, and we'll see you in a minute. Tolan, you have just had your lab door open to reveal a garden you know very well. As you stand in Aggie's courtyard garden, you can see Reese is still holding onto the door handle, and Astrid pads right through.
I think Tolan is not, in under any other circumstance, I think Tolan would be suspicious, have 100 questions, very much wondering how this has occurred, seeing as Reese does not have an Anakwe, but also seeing Astra somewhat affect what has occurred. The thing is that as when he sees the garden, there is a focus that comes over him, and he starts scurrying, I won't say running, but scurrying around the lab. You said there was fruit. If there's fruit, there are seeds. He gathers seed pods, fruits, all of the things that he know from the ever-blooming night thistle, from the sundew buttercups, from the astral novas, all of the plants that he thought were extinct, because he doesn't know if this is potentially a temporary effect, and gathers what he can. I probably can't get all 24, but he's going to get as many as he can of the things that he thought he had lost, because he can think of no safer place to be a sanctuary for these plants than 35 species that were lost, than Aggie's garden. And so as many as he can get of the 35 that were extinct, he will take some form of their seed or fruit and gather them up. And I think he's probably putting them in all his pockets. So eventually he's got his jacket with these sort of big pockets filled with, like you were saying, things like the size of oranges, these other seed pods, long, thin ones, some with just where he knows, having looked for them for so long, any sort of anything that he can take to try to make sure that these plants that he had thought he had caused the extinction of have a second sanctuary that they can grow in.
You can take them, you can fill your pockets as you step. Are you both stepping into Aggie's garden?
Tolan will basically, I think as he goes through, he'll clap Reese on the, that's convenient. We'll talk about it more. Aggie, I need to borrow your garden.
And
as he goes walking through.
You hear like a squeak as a back kitchen window opens, and she leans out and she's like, okay, and like just sort of closes the window again, not even really wondering why you're in her garden. But you do hear a lot of barking. You see the cats again pressed up against the window, and the back door opens and Averick stands there. Got my note then.
Yes. I need your help. I'm a terrible gardener. He starts handing him fruits and seed
yeah, you start
pods.
piling them up, and he's like, "Oh, right, hi, Reese." And he sort of like he looks at you briefly, but like opens his arms for all of this.
I think while all of this is going down, Reese makes sure that he's the last through, and he makes sure the door closes and latches securely. This isn't something that's ever worked. And there's a little slump in his shoulder for a second. But he mostly says that to himself.
You step in as the door closes. You sort of come in through her back gate, and as you close it, it looks exactly like her back gate again. And as you can open it and check, you're in the high street, not back in Tolan's lab.
Averick, that was interesting. Reese was able to turn that door into the door of the lab. It was right through. Stepped right here.
And he looks at you, he's like, wait, where have you been? There's been,
Have you been
like,
to the Gardenia
chaos.
district?
Answer
Did you
your
see-
phone! I thought you were, like, dead or something. It's only because Aggie dragged me all the way here.
My
I
phone
think
is
he
broken.
needs you to. You need to back up further, Tolan.
Oh. What do you know? I was blacked out for a while. Don't worry.
Someone is saying the season tree exploded, and also I feel like a child right now because Aggie won't let me leave the house.
That's
Apart
probably...
from a walk around the garden for exercise, which I don't know what that means.
Well, good. You
but-
can do some planting.
I don't
The
want to
season
do plan.
tree
He's
did
like,
explode.
what do you
Reese
mean?
and I sort of blew it up.
I mean, it was better than the alternatives, I think.
The season tree is okay, right?
It's gone.
What do you mean the season tree's gone? It's never gone. It's always been there.
Well, it actually is sort of there, but the tree's not there. But the door is gone.
What did
Oh,
you
do catch up,
Like, and
Averick.
he's like, what did you do? Like, how is it gone? Like, is he like, do you know what? It doesn't matter. I've had enough today, and I'm not doing any more of that. As you said, you see Aggie like waving like a wooden spoon, sort of like at the window, and he starts to. And she's
Here's
like,
a
"Use the
spade."
flower beds at the back, darling." As you see Averick just and turn and walk towards these raised flower beds.
Not too deep, but not too shallow.
Yeah, no, I got that. And you can just you can see Clyde like lolling his head on the side of the iron chair.
Clyde, make sure he doesn't mess it up.
And there's just what looks like a dozy smile on his face.
Thank you, Averick.
Yeah, whatever. And he sort of keeps
We'll talk about it at dinner.
And there's just a sigh. And then Aggie comes around to the door. You can see a long silvery plait over her shoulder, this apron on. He's in a bit of a mood, I'm afraid. Yes, but I thought it'd be best not to let him out on his own just at the moment. Not knowing everything that happened and everything. It's a bit of an awkward disaster, really, isn't it? Anyway, come in. Stop standing in my garden. In.
Tolan lowers his voice, but how was his leg? Seemed to be functioning?
Yeah, seems fine. This is better than ever.
Good. I didn't want to bring it up because then he'd think I was worried about it, and then he probably would tell me it was fine even if it wasn't.
Oh, it's okay. I think I'm the worst enemy at the moment.
Well, you can be a bit pushy.
As she looks at you and waves a spoon, and it's just like...
I'll be quiet now.
In. And she sort of like gestures you to come in the back door. And she looks towards you, Reese, is like, you may come in as well. Oh, hello. And looks down at Astrid as Astrid just pads in to the kitchen. You see the cats sort of stare at her as she goes past. But she goes in.
I mean, he does exactly what Aggie says. He's known enough people like her.
And well, sit down. I am making lunch, brunch, whatever time. What time is it? And she sort of pulls out like a pocket watch. She's like, I heard you bumped your head. You feeling quite all right?
It was.
He was
Yes.
thrown quite far.
We both were.
Well, you're all upright now.
Yes, Paula took care of us.
Of course she did. I knew I liked her. And sort of starts walking over to the kitchen and bringing out a teapot and setting it down on the table. So, are you going to Valadria like the rest of the people being ushered off?
Well, I sort of look to Reese. I'm following the only clues that I have. I had a strange experience.
Of course you did, darling. Now sit on the chair and tell me about it.
Well, perhaps...
Reese chuckles.
Actually, you can laugh all you want. You need to sit down as well.
You're going to fit right in, Reese. So, have you ever seen, he sort of takes out the sketch of the arch. While I was unconscious, I don't think I was just unconscious. I think I went somewhere.
She frowns at you for a moment.
There was a place between places. Cobblestone, I would say courtyard, but it was horizon to horizon. Filled with arches, some broken, some intact. I could see what remained of an arch that was the season trees. The season tree, did you hear about the door?
I was there, darling. I'm afraid you knocked yourself out just a little bit just before I arrived.
Excuse me. The season tree door. But there was this other one. Well, there were many other ones. But this one in particular was larger than the rest, and it was decorated with magpies and crossed swords. It seemed to be important.
And she sort of almost looks past you for a moment as if she's thinking. And you see her shuffle off her chair and sort of hop down. She's like, I've seen that. And she sort of walks over to her bookcase and she just starts pulling books up, going, nope, nope, like putting them down and creating piles around her. And then she pauses for a moment. And you see her take a big book off the top of the shelf, open it, and there's a smaller book on the inside, which she takes out. And starts to flick through these almost like very yellowish pages. And just, there we are. Sort of opens it, flattens the book really awkwardly, and then puts it in front of you. Now, this is Tom's, and you see a sketch, maybe a drawing, almost identical to yours, of this magpie with crossed swords. There we go.
Are there any notes around it? Did he say where this was or what it was from?
And she starts to sort of look up more and more, and God, he has the worst handwriting. And he sort of, you can see her like putting these pair of glasses on and just squinting. And this doesn't seem to have a lot of words in it. It seems to be lots of sketches rather than anything else. And she frowns. She says, I remember him talking about something up north, him finding something, but I don't know where. There's a lot of up norths around here. I'm not sure if it was on the Ice Coast. I'm not sure if it was Valadria. I have a feeling, though, it was further. And you see her start gesturing as if she's trying to work out where on the map it is.
It's interesting. The Valadrian who sold me the dragon egg, practically gave it to me, was headed north. looking for something.
Well, that would make sense. There's a lot of undiscovered things still up north.
For some people, maybe.
And she gives you a bit of a smile.
Tolan looks to Reese. Do you know what this might be, or what it could be referring to the north?
I have a very strong hunch. It's where I met Astrid. It's where I lost Astrid.
I think just the weight of him saying that. And I think Tolan at first almost asks him a question and then stops himself short very abruptly. It seemed we have more in common than I thought.
Seems so.
And it's been quiet whilst you're talking, and you hear Normand as she bangs on the table. That's what it says. Normand. It's a place up north.
Normand.
Mm-hmm. As she sort of looks pretty happy with herself after that's what she said. Oh, it's a place that Tom used to went. I never really I didn't stay there for long. He stayed there longer than I did, but there's a lot of artifacts and a lot of digs and archaeological finds and things up there. There's a lot of
I have skill in both archaeology and history.
Can I
roll to see if I've heard of this or know about this?
You can.
So with both, can I have 2 assets?
Yeah, why not?
Okay, and I roll without advantage because I kind of want it, just so it goes whichever way it goes. And he's intellect, he's pretty tapped. So I think this is whether it comes, he might know about it, but whether it comes to his mind right at this moment. 14.
Okay. You remember, actually, you haven't been there, but you remember reading about Normand. And it's a place almost as far north as you can go before you hit the North Bay and the ice coast. It is on an opposite mass of land to Red Wolf Island. And the things that you remember there is that people don't live there anymore. They won't live there. It's almost like they say it's haunted. And that a lot of ruins have been found there. But it's a lot of ruins. It's almost, people believe that there was maybe an ancient civilization or something up there. But the environment is unlivable. So there's not really much there. People don't live there. And you know that there is an outpost at the border. And something apparently terrible was supposed to have happened up at Normand. No one really knows what it is. But for a whole civilization to disappear, it was something big. And at the border, there is an outpost run by a certain group of people.
I've heard of Normand. I actually researched it when I was trying to figure out a way to undo what had happened in the Scar. It too became something. It didn't match what had happened here, but I was grasping at straws at the time to try to somehow undo what I had done. It is near Red Wolf Island, where you're from, Reese. Do your people have any stories or legends or similar sites with these types of markings on them.
How would I know?
You, Reese, would have seen maybe a reference to the crossed swords or maybe the magpie, but never together. But normally what you were looking for, things would have worn off, like stone would have weathered, because you have extreme weather where you're from. So maybe never seen the two together, but it would ring a bell. And that's probably about it.
It rings a bell, but I've never seen the swords and the magpie together. You're muted.
Well, Valadris is on the way, that direction at least. And as Paula said, it does have the largest library and the most research that's been done on the arcane and magic and the ruins of this world.
Seems like all roads point to Valadris, then.
It sounds like it. I don't know about you, but well, your knife there, certainly convenient. I wouldn't mind having a few days on an airship to poke around.
That somehow doesn't surprise me, Tolan.
Well, the scar is back. Anything's possible again.
And back over the other side, Florence, you and Paula have waltzed away from each other. And where would Florence go?
First and foremost, Florence is heading home. She's mulling over if she's actually gonna go to work and tell them where she's gonna be, or if she is just gonna call in sick, because surely she has some of those days to blow on a trip. And she's just going home so that she can start packing what she needs for maybe a week of being out.
Okay. Whereabouts does Florence live?
She lives near the post office, actually, in where kind of the major bay and shipping channels are. She's in a small studio apartment. It's small but nice. It's an older building that smells of like salt from being so close to where the water mixes together, and that's where she's at. So we'd see her walking, I think, pretty far across town to get there.
You start to sort of make your way back towards your home, and as I said, you can smell the salt, you can hear the waves sort of picking up a little bit, and you noticed in one of the larger squares, one of the airships has docked, and you can see some people filing onto the first load, and there's lots of people of Khan, and you can see their bags in their hands heading up these steps. But at the back of the airship, another set of stairs comes down. And this person stands over 6 foot and has very long, dark hair, which just sits almost loosely about her shoulders. She looks to be maybe 6'4", 6'5". She is broad. She is tall. You can see this paint just sort of smudged across her nose, this green and this gold, and very fierce eyes. You can see this very sort of sun-kissed skin, like someone who is out in the open all the time. And as much as the face is stern, you can see an almost friendliness that sort of rests there. You can see these heavy, heavy boots. They're fur-wrapped, thick trousers, a tunic, and a very long, heavy coat. And around her neck, not really hidden at all, is a huge stone about the size of a palm. And it looks like glass, but it's almost crystal-like, and it's wound with this rope all the way around it, so it looks like it is there, firmly held. And you see the steps shake slightly as she steps off of them. And she walks forward and just looks up to the sky where this almost oil slick smear sits and sort of moves. And you see her lips move, as if she's maybe talking to herself or saying something over and over again. But she stands there, and she is prominent. You see some people looking at her as they go past, and she just pays no mind to them. But she's there.
Does she seem to be looking for somewhere to go, or is she just sort of standing like almost statuesque?
It's almost like a statue. If you hadn't seen her walk off of the ship, you would have said she wouldn't have moved at all. But as you've stopped to look, she lowers her eyes and looks over to you, almost as if she feels your eyes on her, and watches you.
Usually Florence would be able to move on, but it's been a weird couple days and she just can't help herself right now. So she takes a few more steps forward, and Florence just barely hits like 5'4". So there's a good like foot of difference between the two of them. But Florence is probably not just as broad, but Florence is still like a pretty broad and stout lady, but you know, much shorter. And she wanders up and says, I couldn't help but notice you have a look on your face that looks very similar to one I had 2 years ago when I stepped into Karnan for the first time. And I had kind of wished there was a friendly face to greet me and maybe show me a place to stay or to say hello. I'm Florence. I work over at the post office and I'm heading home, but I'd be happy to help you find a hotel or family or anything else.
You see her brow sort of tense, but she's just watching you as if she's looking at you very intensely, looks at you up and down, and you see that sort of shine of the gold paint across her nose, that glint of the crystaliness around her neck. You see how warm her clothes are and how heavy they are. You see heavy leathers, heavy furs. And she looks down at your hand and at hers and then holds it out, almost to shake. And you can see these almost trinkets sort of, almost like they're pouring down the side of her arm. And again, the two sort of ribbons of color of gold and green.
And Florence will hold out her hand and shake, and she can't help but kind of take in all the little details of the bits and baubles on her.
There's a lot all over her. There seems to be a mix of materials almost stranded to make, whether they're necklaces or something, just bands all over her. And she looks at you as, I am Rika. You are Florence.
That is correct.
And she looks back up at the sky. Do we have the same view as when you came?
You mean the that slickness in the sky? Are you asking if it's always been here?
No. She stays quiet for maybe a minute or so and looks up. I can see them leaving.
Who can you see leaving?
And she looks back at you again with almost, it's not shock, but very wide, intense eyes. Those who have passed, they're leaving.
And Florence head tilts, and she can't once again help herself, and she will tap into her ability to kind of look into this other phase of existence or this other place, and we'll see her eyes shimmer and turn gold, and she's trying to see if she sees anything.
You follow this woman's eyeline up, and you see what looks to be like streaks of color, wisps of smoke, heading up towards the sky. Sort of leaving parts of Carnum behind. And you get a sense of voices as well as they rise up into the sky.
And Florence looks from the sky and then back to the woman and then traces her eyeline back up again. And then she looks back and looks for an Inoqui.
You don't see one around her at all. She sort of drops her eyeline to look at you as well. Apologies, I may have been rude. I do not interact with new people very often.
No, don't apologize. I actually, how are you seeing that? How are you seeing those wisps of energy, that life? How are you seeing that up in the sky?
She looks away for a moment, and you see her hand close over this crystal around her neck, and she tucks it in to her shirt. Honestly, I don't fully know, but I am here as an advisor to the Valadrians to see what, and then she does look up towards the smear, what this is.
That really does seem to be the question of the day, doesn't it? I'm sorry. I've never met anyone else who can see it too.
She looks at you very deadpan, is like, me neither.
Well, all right then. So this, wow. So I'm sorry. Just one more question. You can see them because of the stone you have, the crystal.
She half shrugs. I assume so.
I've been able to see them for a while now. I haven't seen them incarnate much for the last couple of years, but ever since the sheen started to appear in the sky, I've been seeing a lot more of them.
And again, she just stares at you for a moment. This is not the only mark in the sky. I have seen the one above my... And she sort of pauses. where I am originally from. And it is nowhere near as big as this, but I want to see what it's causing.
I'm originally from the Thunder Cliffs. Can I ask where you are from?
And she sort of looks to you briefly. Again, she seems to be looking you up and down a lot. And she has a moment of it. You feel like she's judging whether or not to trust you fully. You feel very judged right now, but it's not done in like an aggressive way. I am from the Ice Coast.
You know, that's been on my list to visit for a while.
There's really nothing there.
You sure about that? I've been told that about a lot of different places, and there's almost always something that makes the trip worth it.
She narrows her eyes slightly. It's very cold on the Ice Coast.
Well, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I just can't get over the fact that you can see them too. Anyways, I was heading home, and it sounds like you're here to assist the Valadrians. Is there any place I can point out, or?
They told me to stay on the ship.
Well, you're almost off the ship. You might as well take another couple steps and maybe see a bit of the city you're supposed to be investigating.
There's a slow nod. What are you proposing?
I'm proposing you maybe get closer to the Slick. The city is, I don't know, it feels dangerous right now. It's quieter than it's been, but there's a lot happening. I think you'll learn a lot more and maybe be more helpful in your advisory capacity if you're in the city and not just standing on a ship waiting for someone to give you orders.
Do you have tea?
Yes.
I would like tea.
All right. I was heading home. Do you want to come to my place real quick to go? I can get you tea.
That
or
would
actually
be satisfactory.
And then I could take you to the Slick.
And she sort of looks up towards it. I have a good view from here.
Well then, let's go get tea.
That is agreeable. Please lead the way.
And Florence will start walking, continuing her walk back home. I think at this point they're pretty damn close. And she'll be taking her new friend.
It's like having a shadow follow you. This person doesn't seem to have any awareness of space, of personal space. And she walks very sort of, she doesn't even walk next to you, she walks behind you as you're leading her.
And I think on maybe any other day, Florence would be taken aback by this like powerful figure looking her up and down. But the only thing Florence can think, the thought that's just going through her mind again is, I never thought I would meet someone else who could see them too. And as this shadow follows behind her, she feels a lot less alone.
And she follows you. And Paula, you have left the dance studio as well. And there is a moment where you're almost headed back to your apartment when you can see you have to go past one of the airships to do so. And you see Elizabeth and Axel having a conversation outside one of them. He looks a bit stressed out. She looks like she's insisting on something. And she sort of turns around and sees you and is like, oh, Paula, come over here.
And Paula will head on over. What's going on?
Oh, he's just being a fusspot and he's worrying, it's fine. But what I was going to say was, I was trying to think of a way to say thank you. And by that I mean a thank you for everything you did, like housing all those people and me. And I was thinking of a way I could do that. So I'd like you to come with me.
I'm a little nervous. You didn't really have to do anything, Liz. I was just doing my civic duty as a citizen of Carnan.
Well, I am a citizen of Valadria, so it is my civic duty to say thank you this way. It's all right, we're not going to take off or anything. I'll let you go and sort yourself out afterwards. And she starts to walk up the steps.
And Paula will follow her, nervous and excited.
You can see Axel seems to be walking around the ship doing maintenance. He's ordering some people about, helping other people get on board. And Elizabeth leads you through these corridors, up these stairs, sort of like a winding, you sort of moving. You can see a lot of people of Carnan. Some faces you recognize as they're loading on, being shown into rooms and things like that. And she leads you to a very familiar place, up to that small room, that office sort of area for her. And she opens the door. She's like, after you.
Paula will creak the door open, stick her head in before stepping in.
You can see the same room you were in earlier. You see 2 comfortable chairs. You see a table. You can see what looks like a couple of sofas. And all manner of just sort of little trinkets and things that have been strewn everywhere. And she looks to you. I wanted to offer something to you that you seek. You like knowledge, don't you?
Yeah, I do.
Now, I don't have any books here, but I will be sure to take you to the library when we arrive. But there is something that was gifted to me, and I thought you'd just be interested in seeing it at least.
All right, you have me at the edge of my seat. You got to spill the beans. What is it, Liz?
And she smiles, and then actually for a moment, it's almost like you're looking in a mirror when she gets excited. She goes, I'll go get it. And she sort of heads over to what looks to be like a cupboard, and she opens it, and it's full of books and bits and bobs. And then she holds on to 2 of the books and pulls it open into a separate sort of cupboard that you didn't even know was there. And almost set up on a stand is this beautiful silver bowl, which she very carefully, gloves still on, lifts off of its stand. And she places it on the table in front of both of you. And it's quite big. It's like you can hold it like that with your arms around it. And it's that sort of silver where it looks almost like it's been hammered into the shape of a bowl. You look at it, it's almost like you would say at first it was metal, but the closer you look at it, you can see this is like a stone, but it shines like metal. It is very silver. And she smiles and looks at you for a moment, almost to see if you know what it is or acknowledge or what your reaction is to it.
Would Paula know what this is? Can she identify it using identifying?
Roll and identify for me, and I'll see how much you can probably determine on this.
Do I have anything? I have 1 advantage. I'm not going to use it now. I'm going to see.
Okay.
Yeah.
You look at this and you've never seen anything like this before, but it is beautiful. It looks pretty rustic, shall we say. It's not ornate in the way, it's not got loads of carvings or anything, and it looks hammered into shape, but that's about it. And she watches you look over it for a moment before she pauses. I'm guessing you've never seen one of these then?
No, I mean, it's beautiful. I can't really put my finger on what it's made of.
It's made from a star that fell from the sky. 4 of these were made. And I just happen to have one of them. It set me back quite a few as she sort of like looks towards it, but technically it belongs to the Library of Valadria, not me.
I don't know if I can accept this. This seems like a...
Oh, I'm not giving it to you. I want you to use it. It's a knowledge well. It's not something you have much say in. Of course you can choose to use it or not, but it's a bizarre thing, you see. The star fell to the North Fae Islands. And it's got this very wondrous property. And what I think it is, what I think it does, it lets you see a memory or an experience. But I haven't quite pinpointed it. I'm not sure if it's from the past, the present, or the future. But it's not your own memory. It will be of the bull's choosing. It's how I knew I should come to Carnan. It's the reason I came to Carnan. It's a wonderful thing. And it is very rarely used.
I'm honored that you think that I deserve to be able to even be in the same room as this artifact.
Oh, come on, don't be silly. It's not that. Let's just look at it this way.
I mean, you said
see...
there's...
Yes, there's 4 of them. I see a lot of me and you. And I think you would find it and value it. Knowledge is something we value very highly. And as I said, I don't know what it will show you. It won't show me. It will only show you. And I don't know if it's past, present, or future. And I don't know whose memory it will be, but it is an intriguing thing, and we don't quite know why it does what it does.
How does one activate it?
Well, first of all, we need some water. And she heads over to what looks like a bit of a sink, and she fills up this glass jug and starts to pour it into this bowl, and you can hear it almost clang like metal. It's very metallic, and it's very shallow. The water's like this much. And she's like, just brush the surface with your fingertips. And as cheesy as it sounds, open your mind.
Well, that should be easy enough. And Paula,
Wait. And she stops. I'm going to leave the room whilst you do this. This is not something everyone should do communally. I believe it's an experience on its own. I don't know. I've learned that maybe having someone else in the room can affect which memory appears. And why not have something important to just you and only you?
no, you're right. This shouldn't be so nonchalant. Gotta slow it down. All right. I appreciate you giving me that privacy.
No problem. And she has this moment where she sort of backs out the room and closes. She's like, I'll leave the door on the latch. And she sort of like backs out of this room.
Paula lets out a deep breath and kind of like is whispering to herself, like, you know, it's only a once in a lifetime opportunity. You know, it's only an incredibly rare artifact that there's only 4 of in existence, a star from the sky, no big deal. Just clear your mind and put your hand in the bowl. And Paula's like breathing intensifies as she's struggling to clear her mind.
As you struggle to clear your mind, you almost hear like a ring, and you hear a voice somewhere as your fingertips not quite touch the water, but as you get closer. And it's a very soft voice. You don't recognize it, it just, if anything, it seems to be coming from the bowl. And for a moment you realize it's your own voice in your head. And it says, think of someone and it gives you a connection. And it just repeats over and over again. Think of someone and it gives you a connection. Maybe not what you seek. And after a while you hear like, is everything okay in there? Like, as Elizabeth is through the door. Okay. Like, is this
just clearing my mind is all. As meanwhile in Paula's mind, like her brain is like running through her lists, all of her lists, and just trying to think of like, out of everyone she knows, who is she thinking about? And as much as Paula's trying to avoid it, and as much as Paula's trying not to think about it, her mind keeps going back to Amma, her mother.
And do your fingertips touch the surface of the water?
Realizing that she can't fight her brain, and that her brain, as it cycles through all these names and faces, the fact that it keeps going back to Amma, she kind of gives into it eventually, and just, it's like, well, I guess this is what I really want to know. And she puts her fingertips to the water.
And you feel like this coolness as you slowly sink them into the water. And this still water ripples. And for a moment, you almost feel like you would swear there was a gust of wind and maybe like a bang or something, that you feel like you're thrown from the room. And you are looking through your mother's eyes at a picture, at a photo. One you've seen before, one of your mother, you, and your father on a beach, almost like a day out. And you see her sort of move her fingertips across the image, and all you feel in her chest is this longing and a mixture of sadness and question and confusion. And as her thumb moves over the face of your father, you're in a different place altogether. You see images all around you, sort of flashing before you, as if you're moving on a speeding train, until you feel like you're not in your own body. You feel like you're seeing through another person. Someone running, someone breathing heavily, someone trying to gasp for breath, running through what looks like a forest. You can feel branches and leaves sort of slap against your face, catch your arm. You feel so tired and so knackered, and that ragged breathing. There's a pain somewhere in your body. You're not too sure exactly where it is, but you blink and you are in this huge forest, this bizarre forest, and you sprint faster and faster, and you can hear footsteps behind you, chasing you, running. You fall, and you sort of catch yourself on the bark of this tree, and you look at your hand, and it's not your own. You see this man's hand, this sort of old weathered hand, rest on the bark, wedding ring on his finger, sort of gasping for air, like you feel your chest tighten. And there's as a blade strikes just next to his hand. And you just say, get up, get up, get up. And you feel yourself forcing yourself to get back to your feet and running again and again. And this screech and this wisp of green that weaves amongst the trees as this kestrel flies in front of your face and past you. You hear yells from somewhere behind you, someone yelling, and another knife and another, and these blades sort of like coming through the air. Your legs are getting tired as you jump and you run. You dive over these fallen logs and branches, and then you feel drawn away from the body, as if you start to watch it, as you watch overhead, as you see a man running. This green kestrel swooping around him, getting higher and lower, diving between the branches. For a moment, he looks back to see what's chasing him, and it seems to be he's inches from your face. And you stare back at eyes the same as yours. And you feel like you're falling backwards, like your stomach lurches, like you've fallen onto the forest floor as you watch him disappear through the branches as these other people follow him. There is a moment where the kestrel stops, hovers in the air just in front of your face, screeches and dives back up into the air. And you're sat back in the room, and you've realized you've fully submerged your hands in this water. The bowl feels like ice. It's ice cold. And you suddenly feel like you've maybe been holding your breath for a long time as you, before you feel it, you hear yourself gasp. And you're in this room on your own with this silver bowl in front of you. And everything is silent. You don't hear Elizabeth. You're just in the room with this bowl. And it looks as though some of the water has drained somewhere.
Paul will take her hand out of the water and kind of just like shake it off and wipe it on her pant leg. It's definitely not what I was expecting. Well, it's a lot, gives me a lot to think about. And she'll turn and open the door a crack and kind of peek out, see if Liz is still standing there.
You can see Liz, but she's on the other side of the corridor, almost as if it's her way to give you some privacy. As she sort of stands up and is like, "Did it work?"
Yeah. No, it took a minute to clear the brain, but it definitely worked.
You don't look very happy. Did you see that? Oh gosh, I probably should have worn. Maybe they wouldn't always see a nice thing.
No, well, it wasn't a nice thing. Well, it started as a nice thing, and then it ended as something less nice, but...
I'm sorry. Would you like a drink?
Yeah, I could really go for a drink. I could really use a drink. No, I can't have a drink. I have a million things to do. We're leaving, and I have to figure out what I'm going to do for how I'm going to find a replacement at work, and I have to say goodbye to my friends, Matthias and his brother, and I have to say goodbye to Niles, and Paula's like really like, she's almost like being overwhelmed by like the fact that she just saw this image, and that was overwhelming in itself, but now she's remembering that she's leaving tonight and all these other responsibilities that are weighing on her shoulders, and she's very stressed out right now. Her heavy breathing hasn't really stopped ever since before she put her hand in that bowl.
And you can see Elizabeth's look of concern on her face, but she doesn't say anything. Just a slight nod.
I really appreciate everything, and that you let me use that bowl. But I think I need to clear my head right now and just take care of my responsibilities.
Of course. And she's trying to hide that she's now worried, but she's very much like, please, I'll walk you out. And she does. She sort of walks you along the corridor, shows you the door, down the steps, and sort of walking past, seems to be stretching his arms. Maybe he's been carrying a bit too much. Matthias spots you and he goes, "Hey, Paula, what are you doing on the airship? You're going so soon?"
Well, yes.
Oh.
I'm going tonight, I think. That's the plan.
That is very soon.
Yeah. I don't know how long the whole excursion's gonna take. So I'm glad that you're here. I was actually gonna go looking for you.
You want some help packing?
I think it's probably better if I just, I'll be faster if I do it myself.
Okay. That's fine. I mean, I debated going myself. I just don't know yet.
Well, if you needed an extra incentive to tag along, here she is.
And he sort of smiles. He's like, that was the main incentive, to be fair.
But I know your brother is still healing, and and your mom is here, and
Jin just stopped by to see how he was doing, and let me tell you, I've never seen someone jump out of bed and run so fast, so I would say he's doing pretty well.
I mean, honestly, he could be a really valuable asset in this investigation as a member of the church.
I know. He always was the more useful one.
if he is feeling better, I'm sure there's plenty of room for him on the airship as well. I mean, I've already convinced Jin to allow Tuva to come, and I think that if we can get as many witnesses or as many people that might have information as possible, then the sooner we can get some answers.
He smiles. Not a sad smile, but there's not a lot of energy behind it. It's convincing my brother to go. As you said, I may have a bit of an incentive myself. He sort of looks at his feet. Maybe I pack and see what happens. Someone's got to help you look after Tuva.
You know, I honestly don't know if I actually can handle that on my own. And if something happens to Tuva, Jin is going to come after me. And
she'll kill you. I have no doubt.
Yeah, I mean, have you seen her with a gun?
Yes.
Yeah, you have actually. Yeah.
He half smiles again. Well, I'm going to go pack. And I'll think about coming.
But
As
even
I
if
said, I make a great babysitter. Even
whatever
if
you
that's
decide, Matthias, please meet me here tonight, because I do want to say goodbye properly.
He blinks slowly. Regardless of anything, I will be here tonight.
Good. That's comforting to hear, because I'm really not good at goodbyes. So I need to do them like 3 times before I totally get it out of my system. So this is going to be goodbye number 2, because we said goodbye earlier today in the dance studio. So this is goodbye number 2.
Okay.
And Paula will kind of like grab him with one arm for a hug, but like almost like in stride as she's walking off.
Yeah, you feel him sort of pat your back gently as you let go and keep going. Here, tonight.
Be there or be square.
I still don't know what that means, as you sort of disappear around the corner. And Reese and Tolan, you've been sat at this dining table at Aggie's. Averick has come back in. He's absolutely caked in mud. It looks like maybe Clyde did some digging as well. And Aggie has pulled out lots of Tom's sketchbooks. And you can see that this magpie and crossed swords appears often in them. Only as sketches. But they're there.
This has to be the direction to go. I don't know what it will lead to. I'm not sure if it's even what we should be following. But I can't imagine what happened here is a good thing, or something that bodes well for the people of Kanin. If we hadn't stopped whatever that was coming through, the Guardians were scared. And there were hundreds of gates where I was. So that potentially means hundreds of places where things like that could come through.
Unless you can get us all to wherever that was, I don't know that we have a better lead than all of this.
Yeah. Part of me still wonders if I was really there. I mean, I was laying in Paula's studio, but it was so real.
I mean, we live in a world full of magic, Tolan. Chances are, with everything you saw and what you told us, you were there.
I have to believe so as well. We will see, I guess, what this path takes us to, and where we will go, and how it will affect all of us. He keeps flipping through the notebook to see if there's anything else.
And Aggie sort of looks at you, said, "Take it."
He looks over to Averick. I know I ask too much of you. But I need you to come with us, to follow where this leads. I don't think I can do it alone.
And he half laughs for a second, and you see him put like a tea towel over his face, almost like you hear, "Oh my god, of course I'm coming with you, you utter idiot." I mean, come on.
Tolan does actually laugh a little. Well,
I'm your apprentice. I have to keep an eye on you because you can't use a phone to save your life. And it'll be weird if you're not here.
Well, I figured if you didn't come willingly, I'd just trick you, but it was more polite to ask.
It's polite.
I'm trying to get better at that.
And he sort of throws like the tea towel aside, and he's like, "And I want to see old Seeker Tolan make his debut. You're finally doing it again. I'm getting you out of Kanan."
Huh.
And he looks very smug.
It wasn't the city that was keeping me here. Just the city.
Frowns for a moment. Does this mean I have to pack?
Well, one would think you would want to bring a change of clothes.
All right. I don't know what these Valadrians do. And he sort of starts to... He looks at...
Do you really want to wear Valadrian fashion? With the collars and the cuffs and the things?
Yeah, actually, no, I really don't. And he sort of goes, "I'm going to go get my stuff, and I will be back here within the hour. I also need to make a note, and I need to tell someone to look after broom bindings." "Oh, I know." And he sort of starts to make a note. "I'll be back in an hour." I'd say charge your phone, but I don't think you have it anymore, do you?
He looks so ashamed.
Reese slowly slides the 2 pieces of the phone across the table.
Tolan like tries to smack.
Yeah, like
And it just looks so betrayed. The look of utter betrayal on Tolan's face.
Averick shakes his head.
Dare you?
I'm gonna have
How dare you, sir?
I'm gonna have to go by messenger pigeon. And he opens the door, grabs his coat, and closes it again. And Aggie looks at the phone. Looks back down here and is like, "Why on earth would you do that?"
They're frustrating machines.
Oh, they are. They really are. Mine's in the pond out back.
I need to go pack as well. It's Tolan just kind of huffs and gets up and he takes the 2 pieces and whips them off the table and puts them in his pocket, kind of shoots a look, and he looks at Astra. It's like, did you put him up to this?
This dog just nose twitches and looks at you before resting its head back down on the floor on top of Reese's feet.
Marches out back to his little 1-bedroom, his little loft area on his shop to go put his things together. And grumbling the whole way.
Aggie chuckles and she starts to pour you another cup of tea, Reese. And somewhere across the city, Florence, what does your apartment look like, or house?
So she is on kind of the top floor of a very kind of short and squat and older, but well taken care of little complex. And when we walk inside, it's a small, but once again, it's been kept well, apartment that's very sparse in its decoration. There's really not anything up on the walls. It's got kind of the basic furniture. Think the things your mom would yell at you for not having if they were to come over to your place. But she has a few knickknacks, and they're all kind of on a table next to her bed. And the kitchen is pretty well stocked with kind of supplies, things to all kinds of gadgets to cook with. And those are kind of the only 2 zones in her house that stick out as having anything particular to them.
And this very large woman, Rika, sort of walks in and looks incredibly awkward as she just sort of looks around, stands very, very upright. And then you notice there is actually a staff tied to her back as well. It looks like a walking staff with lots of trinkets tied around with lots of different multicolored bits of thread. I appreciate being in your house.
I appreciate you being here. Now, you can either stay standing right where you are, or there is a table over there. I'm going to put on some water, and while that's heating up, I'm going to start packing my bag. So excuse me while I kind of go about doing that. Naker and Florence, as she's putting on the water, as she's talking, and she kind of disappears, or she doesn't really disappear, it's a studio. So she kind of like walks across across the way to like where her bed and this like nightstand is. And she starts to kind of like pull a bag out from underneath her bed. Don't mind me while I take care of this.
And she stands exactly where she is. She doesn't sit down. She just stands and she waits. She watches the kettle boil for a moment. Would you like me to make tea?
Oh, sure. Yeah, there's a pantry too. You'll see it. It's like the only other door in this place. So pantry, and to just pick whatever. I've got a bunch of stuff. And Florence, as she's talking, is kind of going to her closet and pulling out some clothes. She has a lot of items that are the same item, but in slightly different colors. It's kind of the first time we've seen her with clothes that aren't her postal service uniform, and it's all very simple, very utilitarian. I'm personally thinking something black, something with caffeine in it, since it's way too early right now.
And you see her very slowly turn. She seems to move with great strides, but fairly slowly. And you hear the door open. You hear a mismatch of tins being not knocked over, but moved about. You hear the kettle whistle. And there's these, she's probably taken out if you had best china, like the most delicate cups, that seems to be what she's gone for, and picked them out of the cupboard and started to pour this tea. And you're almost taking this stuff out of the wardrobe, and she moves silently. When you turn around, she's there. And she says, tea.
Oh, yes, tea. Yeah, no, I can pack and drink at the same time. Thank you. And Florence will kind of pull it up to her nose and smell and try to figure out, like, she knows the teas she has pretty well and is kind of puzzling out which one this woman picked.
You can see it is the one you drink the most of, and you think she knows that that's the one you drink the most of.
Florence quirks an eyebrow up at that, gives her a smile, and starts to sip on it while shoving some stuff into what looks like the kind of backpack you would take camping, something you can strap a bunch of gear to. It looks like camping equipment is what she's using.
This woman looks at you, moves away from you as you do. Should I sit?
If you would like, sure, we can. My thought is we can enjoy some tea, and when we're done, we can go wherever you need to go in the city. I've got some time to kill until this evening.
And she nods. And sits silently, very upright, like doesn't relax into the chair. Is just upright and sips this tea. And you see her crystal sort of fall between her shirt and hang forward, and it just has a soft bluish glow about it, and it has a almost calming sense sort of around her specifically. You think she's calm not because of the stone, but this is just who she is, and maybe doesn't actually get to talk to people that often. And as you finish packing and you both drink the tea, it sort of slowly turns to afternoon, and you start to feel a bit peckish. And she drains this mug, and you watch her very awkwardly go over to the sink and try wash it up and put it on the drainer. You see her look at it a few times and then just stuff it on the side. And she turns around. Thank you for the tea.
Anytime.
And she looks at you across like this island in your kitchen and nods. And that's where we'll leave Doors of Dunera this week. Until next, with the awkward silence. So, yes, thank you very much, everyone. Please check out the links that are coming up in chat now. That includes a link to our Discord, and there is also a channel in there purely for this game. I'd love to hear your theories or what you think about this wonderful game all these wonderful people bring to the table. Also, if you would like a game, please drop Scrat a message on Twitter. We are planning for next season already as well, and there are lots of viewer games coming up. Also, a huge thank you to our wonderful sponsors in the form of Hero Forge. You would have seen the video in the break. They're doing some seriously amazing stuff with minis over there. It's incredible. Also, Maychan Press. You will have seen some of their modules played through on Maychan Mondays, which was today, before this session, because I'm coherent at this. I think we're currently on the pirate version at the moment, so definitely go check that out. Also, the wonderful deck of many with the magic moving spell cards, which you can see here, and also Humblewood, which is a gorgeous book in itself. Otherwise, keep evoking emotions, and we'll see you next week. Bye.
Looks like we got a new friend!